Thank you. Ache. Santo. I'm honored, and thrilled that I suspect that the collective wisdom we hold in this room also will tear down walls. I have not done a literary event with a man before. And my book, My Broken Language, that I'm going to read from, is mostly about my matriarchal inheritance, coming from a lineage of Philly Rican, what I like to call brew healers, brujas, who are masters of the art of healing. But I thought tonight I would celebrate the phenomenal poet Willie by reading by reading to you a few passages that I've not read to audiences before about the men in my life, and particularly my father's. My white Jewish father and my light-skinned Boricua dad, Pop, and the brown Boricua woman that connected my thread through both of them. So My Broken Language is the story, my own story of achieving a poetics from the rubble of all my childhood languages. In this first passage, my mom's faith is a secret. She is a spirit medium, what I refer to in the book as a spiritual genius. And she's also an herbalist. She grew up in Arecibo, Puerto Rico, on a farm, and so she inherited the indigenous sciences of agriculture and healing, herbal healing from her father. I'm 5 years old, and Mom has just revealed her spiritual gift to me, but I'm not supposed to tell my dad. It's a secret. So I deal with the fact of that secret here. Dad was sucking down a Camel Unfiltered, his long hair cascading down the chair back, eyes hidden behind a sci-fi paperback. Asimov, Vonnegut, and Bradbury had overtaken his bookshelves and now created skylines all over his study's floor. Each cracked spine testified to multiple rereads, and half-missing covers were the norm. Sometimes I'd sneak into the study when Dad was away and fan through the yellowed pages, savoring the smell of wood chips and weed. These books were the only evidence of Dad's past. If he had parents, they went unnamed, undescribed. If he hailed from a place, he never indicated so. It seemed to me he'd emerged from the woods a forever adolescent, hoisting 100 books over his shoulder and a bong in his back pocket. "Is God real?" I asked. "God is the opiate of the masses," Dad said, reclining in his wooden swivel. His thoughts on any given matter were often too big for sitting upright. Dad could have said anything in that lazy repose, and I'd have taken it as inarguable fact. "Do you know what genocide is?" he asked. "No." "How about slavery? The Holocaust?" "Well, you'll learn. Probably not in kindergarten." "They're terrible things people have done to each other in the name of God. Religion is the root of all evil." He paused for a moment, double-checking that his point was complete, then returned the book to his face. I closed the door behind me, but could hardly move in the hallway. If religion was evil, then was Mom evil too? All week when I saw him, I lost the courage to ask, until Friday when I worked up the resolve. The school bus deposited me at the stop sign, a quarter-mile uphill on the road that led home. Our house wasn't visible past curves and brambles, but as I got closer, I heard Dad's table saw shrieking. This would be the moment. I knew they argued hard and hateful, and always after my bedtime, as if eyelids shut my ears. But if Dad thought Mom was actually evil, well then, case closed. He denied her special sauce, her main ingredient, her ABCs. And my toes got that tingle of stepping too close to an edge. And 3 woozy steps later, it felt like I was crossing a bridge built of twigs. Closer to the house, Dad's smoking cough beckoned, a cavernous basso echoing his first cigarette at 13. I came into the garage, greeted by a Milky Way of sawdust. Specks of light hovered, suspended, slow danced. Dad glanced up and nodded hello. His focus was contagious, and I fell silent as he worked. He tilted a hefty wooden slab back and forth, checking it out, cigarette dangling from his lips. It looked like a dull, plain piece of wood, but after eyeing me to check if I was paying attention, Dad cascaded rubbing alcohol over the plank. Suddenly, loops and swirls glistened on its surface. Curly maple. He spoke the words like sacrament. Curly maple, I repeated, a flock of one. Within minutes, the alcohol evaporated and the wood grain receded back into dullness. In the coming days, he explained, he would sand the plank, starting with rough coarseness, getting progressively finer. Then he would tongue oil it over and over, day after day, until the just glimpsed glow reached permanently into the grain and held shine. For this project, he would use only mortise and tenon joints, enabling him to build without a single nail. Joinery, if done right, is stronger than nails, he said. Well, how can that be? A nail creates a disturbance, a hole. It compromises the wood. Dad's workshop was my after-school program. Sometimes I would venture a question as he worked, request an explanation. He spoke in the fewest words possible, each syllable decisive and considered. But today's question was a boulder at my locked lips. If religion is the root of all evil, then is Mom evil too? The sky was striped blood orange by the time Dad checked his watch. We hurried to the pickup and chased the runaway sun around bends as green bramble darkened to silhouette. The hardware store closed soon, and Dad needed sandpaper. His unfiltered Camel crackled like a miniature campfire. He didn't puff the cigarette so much as exorcise a demon from it. 5 inhales and the thing was spent. Then he cracked the window open, and in the rear view, I saw it fly like a comet. Mom had told me one of his secrets, how in boyhood he attended survival camp each summer, 21 days with a compass, knife, and no companions, the goal being to survive. Just dropped him in the wilderness, abandoned a young boy with no way to contact home. How fucked in the head is that, Mom said. I imagined little kid Dad whittling sticks beneath the stars, preludes to the hand-sharpened pencils littering our home. Then one summer, when Dad was 13 and already a confident survivalist, his session came to an abrupt, premature end. 2 weeks in, a camp official emerged, hurrying through the woods. Time to go. Not a moment to spare. It's already taken a few days to locate Dad. The home news was this: another heart attack caused by diabetes, her 4th and last. Dad was choppered off the mountain to attend his mom's funeral. Can you imagine, Mom sighed, learning about his mom's death from a stranger? But for me, something clicked. Dad's sadness always seemed a little bit holy. I had tried asking him about it, but he had quickly brushed past a, "Yup, that was sad," to say he could start a fire in a damp forest without a match. Survival camp was the one part of childhood he enjoyed, he had said, which was more words than he'd ever spoken on his mom. Now, with the sun completely fallen, Dad pulled into the True Value lot and cranked the brake. Past the window posters, a cone of light beamed onto the register. Still open. Inside, we found various sandpapers, and Dad selected a progression of rough to smooth. Each one left different-sized scratches on my fingers. And even though the lady had unbolted the door for the day's final customers, Dad took his time talking me through each level of coarseness. He'd have paused the world from spinning just to educate me in the True Value aisles. The lady rebolted, and we lingered beneath signage as Dad lit another unfiltered. Bailey's Irish Cream and Hot Fudge. Baskin-Robbins was still open and one parking lot over. And with his offer, my simmering question dissipated. Religion is the root of all evil, Dad had decreed. Then does that make Mom evil? I had reeled. But there in the empty lot, unlit lot, I saw the crack in his foundation. Dad, as an atheist, I couldn't quite buy it. His words didn't match his way. Dad, the mystic, I thought, as if writing a crooked painting. Mom had taught me about mystics. It wasn't the typical father stuff that made Dad one, though he had done it all. Keep your eye on the ball, aim for the bullseye, hold the bow steady. When I let go of the bike, you stay pedaling, sound out the word. No, his mysticism was an ability to be both 1,000 miles away and right here with me. A creativity born of boyhood alone on a mountain. Despite his unrelenting intellectual certainty, Dad spoke of a nailless bookcase like Psalm speaks of valley. No longer would I trust the man's declarations, no matter how far his chair leaned. If his words didn't match his way, why bother seeking explanations? Why not simply observe the carpenter at work, trusting the unspoken, the felt and seen, which was more reliable anyway? So that's what I did every summer day until kindergarten began. So when they split, my mom lost her faith and fell into a severe depression. And I'm 7 years old here. Mom's bonfire with a white Jewish hippie on the run was, in the end, a spectacular failure. When I was in second grade, they split, and Mom and I returned to the old Philly block, 2 suburban discards. Dad's every other week, Dad's on weekends, Dad's every other weekend, Dad's once a month, if that. The R5 tracks became my compass. Trains left on the 12s, 32s, and 52s. I was a migrant in my own life. I was told to find an aisle seat near the conductor, clip my nails if a man sat next to me, and if that didn't repel him, move immediately. But rules be damned, I rushed for the window each time, leaning my head against the smooth glass. Dust always dotted the pane's exterior from dirty rain that had dried, and I would stare past it as though my life lay beyond, a blur in the distance, going, gone. Mom had done this commute and grown exhausted. Now, the route being mine, I felt not tired, but cold. The air conditioning, the glass. I might have been scared on the hour-long ride or on the isolated platform waiting to be picked up. I might have been saddened by a family rent in 2, but my ear and forehead propped against the cool window pane, anesthetic. Conductors nodded hello, tipped their SEPTA caps, called me by name, even stopped the train if they saw me sprinting to the platform, but their smiles barely masked it. Damn-ass shame, their eyes told me as they punched my ticket, an unattended 9-year-old commuter. Mom's Spanish was no longer reserved for backyard rituals, just out of Dad's earshot. Now an hour-long gulf stretched between English me and Spanish me. And in all those migrations, I discovered the disparity. How the 15 minutes from 30th Street Station to Overbrook was rubble, graffiti, broken factory windows, junk tires piled high. How 3 minutes later, by Marion, the main line was an oasis of gleaming brick, emerald lawns, restored wrought iron. The sudden change sickened me for what it implied about Mom, my titis, abuela, and primas. My Perez women were messy, derelict squalor. My English dad was manicured Americana. So My mom's spiritual genius comes roaring back as I get closer to middle school. She starts herself on the studious and laborious path to being crowned a santera of Chango. And there, along with her restored faith, there's also a new man, a Boricua man, in my home. Mercedes Cedo Sanchez. His chest was so thick it could bust open a barrel. His wide smile showed off big teeth with gaps, broad as harmonica holes. The main gap, smack dab in the middle, was probably the first thing in his mouth, and his teeth just grew around it. On his expansive forehead, atop thickest eyebrow, sat a penny-sized mole. A mole like a setting sun. On another man, the mark would have been a blemish, but on Sanchez, it was regal. Man, out on the street, folks hollered as he passed, "Sanchez!" The name said aloud, it put some polish on the day. He was a well-known builder north of Girard who wore polished loafers to his construction sites and got drywall dust under his nails. Then he returned the next day, loafers shiny and polished, handing out payday envelopes to his crew. Oh, he didn't have employees, he had guys. Sanchez even smelled good when walking his work zones. His biological children were punctual, I give them that. Every night during The Simpsons, our phone rang. "Your mother's a whore," they whispered before hanging up. Sometimes they'd abbreviate it simply to whore, click. He had left them, my dad had left me, so we were tied in the dad department, but they didn't know or care. It's not like I wanted their cologne-scented, crisp, hairlined macho in my kitchen every morning. No one had consulted me on the great daddy swap-out that was now my life. One night they were really on a roll, crank calling a gazillion times in quick succession. Mom stormed up the steps, hands sticky from chopping sofrito. "Tell your friends that our phone line is not a fucking toy." It rang again. She grabbed the receiver, double palming it fingerlessly to not garlic up the plastic. "Hello?" The word sounded through the earpiece. Whore, click. She looked at me with surprise. "Wait, was that?" "Yeah." "That's why this thing's been ringing off the hook?" Now it rang again. "Don't answer," Mom said, running to rinse off the garlic. She returned clean-handed and grabbed the receiver with steady poise. "Hello?" Again, the word was hissed more than spoken. Whore. "That's just sad. Do you even know what you're saying?" Mom sighed. The line went dead. The ring repeated, as did the slander. Whore. "You know something. You may have a point. Call it to me again." They obliged. Whore. "I bet you didn't think you'd be my teacher tonight." "What am I?" Whore. When the line went dead, Mom craned her neck to God. "I caught your transmission." Ha ha, ma perepung. Her giggles gathered until the next ring when she answered by simply blurting, "Give it to me." Whore. Mom lost it. Woman cracked up, laughter flying like Sunday hallelujahs, hitting soprano notes I didn't know she had. "Stop, Mom, it's not funny." "They have no idea what they're calling me." "How do we say whore en el barrio?" Mom asked. "Puta? How else?" Ho? Exacto, ho. Now tell me, Quiara, what is a hoe? A woman who's shamed for her sexuality? It's the shame men have given us from the get-go, the shame that is written into the Bible. But think, Quiara, what else is a hoe? I want you to make this connection yourself. Racking my brain, I came up short. "Ho!" she yelled, as if volume was a code cracker. "Asada, asada, asada. What is a hoe, Quiara?" A gardening tool. And what else does a hoe do? She asked. Digs. It's an ancient tool with a sharp blade for clearing and turning the soil. When the earth gets tired, you break the earth. You wound the earth, digging narrow troughs and trenches so you can do what? Plant seeds. Plant seeds, she rejoiced, all affirmation. They think they're shaming me, but they have no clue that they're praising me. We are not whores, we are hoes. We plow the land. We plow our reality. We plant seeds of potential. I am hoeing on Cedo's potential. I am hoeing on the potential of my community. I have been hoeing on your potential since day one, hija. Resplendent and alive, she answered each call. The word whore, when missiled her way, was met with the laugh of a honey-sated bear. Mom's laughter caught me until both our feet hoofed the floorboards, both our fists pounded the sofa, and our faces contorted and torqued with pain, but still, we laughed. I was 8 when Sanchez first appeared. The second Mom brought him home, I was on alert. Man brought an earthquake. The blackout drunk rages at 3 a.m. Mom stripped his pants, tugging at the ankles, and washclothed the shit away as he hollered and cursed. I would spy these struggles from the upstairs landing. My jaw would clench with animal instinct, and I'd despise the devil in his voice. I tried transmitting instructions telepathically. Forget him, Mom. Let him clean his own shit. No matter how loudly I thought, Mom never seemed to hear. One rainy night, I found trash bags out front filled with his nice clothes. Where's Cedo, Mom? Straightening up or getting out. The following morning, the bags were gone. The house quieted that week as if listening for clues. Mom was tense for days, vague with the answers. She gripped my arm whenever near as if to steady herself from stumbling. She offered unsolicited assurances. We will be fine, no matter what happens. You gotta believe in your mommy, ¿me entiendes? She was shoulder length from heartbreak, hollowed out, teetering. She had lost love once, and it had nearly annihilated her. Would I watch her plummet again? Finally, she was pulling onto the Schuylkill. The on-ramp from West Philly was a treacherous blind merge with cars zooming by on her left and an impatient line accumulating behind her. If a gap slipped by unclaimed, angry honks pounced like wolves. What do you want me to do, fly? She screamed in the rear view. She swooped into a lane, and in that moment, out came her decision. What I have to figure out, Quiara, is if I'm ready to put in the time. I'm not young, Kiki, and this is a major project, an investment of my best years. Cleaning up a man is no 1, 2, 3 quickie. Pero, with all his imperfections, and now her voice cracked, when all I had around me was death. She trailed off, leaving me to infer what death she referred to. I knew. It was the shroud that fell on her in those skinny days. I had watched my mother erode, being a brown woman battling a white man in family court, Dad's threats to kidnap me to California, Casa Comadre, her community center, being destroyed when and because it flourished. When all I had around me was death, Mom steadied her voice. Cedo said, get on your knees and give that to the universe. I tell you, that was a powerful moment in my life. I will die thinking of it. He returned me to faith. When Cedo resurfaced the next day, a chastened hush arrived with him. What Mom anticipated as a years-long process, cleaning him up, he had begun to accomplish, it seemed, in those few days away. As time wore on, the temperance proved lasting. It's not that he had shrunk, but he came back home with a sense of permission and humility. I wondered if by drawing a firm line, Mom had made good on her spiritual debt. if in his darkest hour she had restored him to himself. There was that Sunday, early on, when his voice boomed from the porch. Quiara, prop the door! His crew was out front, clumped around an old upright. They stooped over, breathing hard. Well, final stretch, he said. Cedo was not one to bark orders from the sidelines. He took rear position, the most weight-bearing, as they hauled the piano up 5 steps. Sweat pouring from noses, tears of exertion raining down. Their muscles quaked beneath the terrible weight, and if that thing toppled over, they were goners. Once the steps were conquered, they discovered that the piano's old casters had rusted stiff, so even on a flat surface, the lifting must continue. The piano was placed by the dining table. Someone had given it a slapdash coat of dooky brown paint. Chips here and there revealed older colors beneath. 2 keys missing the ivory resembled gaps in grade school smiles. Well, a church in Downingtown was about to be demolished, Cedo beamed, wiping his sweat on his slacks. They auctioned off the contents, so what do you think, Quiara? Was this worth $22? Cedo lived to find gems in a garbage heap and throw a few hours' work at a few willing guys. That's how our West Philly twin went from tumble down to handsome. Because Cedo and Mom scoured auctions and estate sales, and knowing how to build, they patched our house's wounds, room by room. I sat and played Bach's Minuet in G major, the one classical piece I knew. I had learned it by ear on the school piano during recess. Tinny notes, like chimes in a music box, rang out. The keys required only the gentlest press to make music. The workers crowded around. They could hear it too. She was sweeter than a lollipop, this worn-out piano, sang like a parakeet. Bum da 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 dum bum 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 da 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 dum bum bum dum da da dee dum da da dee dum da da dum da dum. My fingers lifted from the final chord, and I turned to face my audience. Their cheeks were still red from exertion, but with brighter eyes. ¿Quién la escribió? ¿Tú? One asked. Bach. Bach, he repeated. The guys chuckled at the name. Mimicking German pronunciation, I proclaimed, Johann Sebastian Bach. ¿Sabes otra? Not knowing another, I replayed the minuet. Life's aperture widening with every note. Dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum. My fingers rested as Bach's final G chord rang out. The workers nodded, smiling, easy converts to Bach's orderly music. It was dainty in a way life rarely mimicked. From a thick roll of cash, Cedo thumbed 20s and 50s to each guy, then made a declaration. My daughter's a natural. That's how I got my first piano and a few notes of a new language. Thank you. Thank you.
I was in the corner here listening to it. So you see, that's a curtain. I thought that shit was a wall, and I leaned on to the curtain. I almost fell out. And so we pulled up in an Uber, and there was this line going around, and Ricky was like, Bill Clinton and Hillary here. I was like, they coming to the reading, bro? I was like, nah. I was like, nah, they're not coming to the reading, bro. So I want to thank Ricky. I want to thank Ricky Maldonado. For this curation. I want to thank Centro Puerto Rico, Proyecto Elite. I want to thank Elizabeth for coming through. I want to thank Quiara for sure, man. Just like agreeing to be part of this dialogue, right? Like that's what it's about. So salute to you, and I definitely want to thank my homie Tahimba Jess for that introduction. Tahimba, he doesn't like to hang out with me anymore because I like to go uptown late at night and shit. It was like, and break night, you know. He was like, nah, and if you hang out, he was like, yo, if you hang out with him, you're gonna have to commit. So, appreciate that, bro. A few months ago, we had told friends of ours, Fernando and Judy, that I was gonna be doing a reading with Quiara, and Judy was like, are you gonna read something new? So I was like, in the spirit of that, I'm gonna read some new shit, and then read from the Crazy Bunch. So I've been working on this. The book is called This, That, and the Third, and it's that thing where we try to fill in the blank and your homies are talking to you and we're like, you know what I'm saying? And he said this, that, and the third. I was like, I know exactly what you're saying, right? So, and so a good portion, the half of the book is like all in sort of these dialogues with very short prose in between the dialogues. And then there's a longer piece called The Golden Hours, which takes place at the first week of the lockdown in 2020. I'll give a little context, and then after that, I'm going to move into the Crazy Bunch so we can hang out with the crew for a little bit. This is from This, That, and Third. This piece is called Coffee with Legs, or Café con Piernas. This is a pastime in Chile. Roberto calls me from the hotel lobby and says he has an amulet for me. Let's go have coffee with legs, he says. The night before, I told him that street corners are good workshops. One good prompt and you die. Death, he says through the receiver, I'm almost there. We get off a free bus and walk into a bar. Professionals like to have their 2 sugars here during their lunch break, he says. We can only see neon versions of ourselves in the black light. My business used to be hanging out and minding my business, so I'm always down for a bustelo. An army of black ants soldiering a shard of lettuce. That's what I want my poetry to be like, Roberto says, his nose almost touching mine. I can only see his teeth. The bar is a T and the runway curtain is velvet. I can see dust mites in the folds. A man in sunglasses sits in the corner seat, stirs his cappuccino and nods his head to the tego. Roberto calls them singlasses. A man with a red tie that looked blue sits at the corner of the bar, stirs his espresso. The curtain opens. Heels lead. The dancer can tell that I'm a new jack in Santiago. One ankle strap comes loose. I survey her knees for bruises. I see what looks like a sloppy lightning rod, 1 stitch below her belly button. The dancer mashes and dips back before she is enveloped by the curtain. You see, Roberto says, this is the workshop, my friend. We step out into the street. A burst of light uses me to snap its fingers. This, I think, is what it feels like to live in the dark. Not only can we write the saddest songs, Roberto says, but we can deliver poems and give birth to the sky before we have to go back to work. Casa Adelas, a love story. And Casa Adelas is this Puerto Rican restaurant on Avenue C over there next to the New Rican Poets Cafe. And it's about, if you want to go back home and back to the archipelago and get some grub, that's where you go. Casa Adelas, a love story. Bundles of pasteles tied with a string, bro. That's when you knew it was a rap? No, I'm saying that's when definitions become unnecessary. She was staring me down. You lucky, mano, because you can't find shit like that online. What did she say when you told her about the pieces of flan that the doctors found in your heart? She said that our destinies tend to seek innovation, that I should forget any mention of clapping. And then she started that food dance when the beans start holding a good note, when you know they were made from scratch and left to sprout by moonlight. My man, you about to be a Bastille for real, bro, all tied up. I'm happy for you, bro. Nah, but I came correct. I had balloons, a nice greeting card, and then Adela played some music and asked us to dance because she could see all the arrows in the air, but I couldn't move. What song she played? Porque Ahora by Vitín Aviles. No. Yeah, bro. Oh, how that go? Solo rodando por el mundo, con un dolor profundo, y sin poder llorar. That girl's on that slow tip. I was frozen over the caldo. I went to step and I couldn't. I looked at my kicks and tried to give them fat laces on demand. Oh shit, my man had lockjaw on his knees. Pastor Los Tones, man, you wild, bro. So I detracted. I asked her if she wanted sugar in her coffee. There were trumpets playing on Loisaida near the corner deli like a plugged nickel on a snowy day. I tried to remember a blessing I once heard. You played the keynotes. Exactly. I was trying my best to keep my ear to the street. So what did she say about the flang in your heart? She kept saying that her heart is hardwired and sometimes you can't hear the S in her Spanish. I had to get anonymous on her after that. You ghosted her? No, I'm saying I just went kind of faceless. I got you. But then Shorty Tumba Nota came over. Oh, no, hell no. Yeah, he got those long wool-ass sleeves and shit and a turtleneck underneath. It's 90 degrees, and he's still punch-drunk from all those fights, and he said, you still getting some of that como se llama? I got up quick, hugged him, and walked him to the door. You didn't introduce Shorty to your friend? Come on, man, you have to have respect when you're in the hood. When I got back to the table, I told her that Shorty cracked his dome roof jumping. I told her he slipped and landed on a fire escape. He hit his head, and his brain went chicharrón fast. Then she asked me if I wanted some como se llama. I told her she was beautiful and I wouldn't try to insert myself into her life without permission, not even in a different language. What about the balloons? She told me to make sure I get my heart checked, man, and then she left the balloons to rumble down the avenue. So in March 2020, I was on break and was about to go back to school. And we were in New York, and there was these sort of messages going online that the city was about to lock down. And I tried to be like that dude in Heat, where I could just run, in 30 seconds when I feel the heat coming around the corner, And I'm like, I'm out, y'all. And so my wife, Sandra, she had to stay back because she had an interview. And so we still staying with our son, but I left in advance. And I'm giving context to that because to claim that this piece is non-autobiographical would be disingenuous, but to claim that it's about me would be a lie. So this is called The Golden Hours. Oh, and one thing you should know is that the book is sort of scaffolded by these first-person haikus. Too green, the springing April grass. Too blue, the silver speckled sky. For me to linger here, alas, while happy winds go laughing by. Wasting the golden hours indoors. Washing windows and scrubbing floors. Spring in New Hampshire by Claude McKay. The Golden Hours. The first yawn of morning has its own grammar. Used to be you didn't know hawk from eagle, oak from maple, blame your city-fied eyes. But on this first lockdown wake-up, a red-tailed screech soars above the magnolias like an accomplice to an airborne crime, preying on a secret glory, completing a rhyme for the ages. No note, no glass of water, just sunlight left to chill on the windowsill because there are rules to being reborn once a year, It's almost April and the forecast is coming to you in gray notebooks, so you crack that black marble-covered composition book left over from winter term and decide to live with intention. 17 syllables is all you have to make this morning jump like a sharp, deadly cough, like a high note in a Johnson House hallway where all the good doo-wop is practiced. The shortness of breath, they say, is the first symptom you should look for. The recent swelling in your ankles can no longer hold the last zip code you claimed. Such goes the bop in middle age. And you haven't seen World War on front line, never trembled under a catastrophic earthquake, never was swallowed by a vicious hurricane. The bruja from the block used to say you're lucky that way. The country has just airmailed the solitude you've been secretly praying for, and the threads on your phone are vibrating. When you open your eyes, you look for corroboration of threats on your off-white cotton sheets. Wonder if this new world just floated through the window screens. Branches lean and sway, altos waiting for solos, magnolia leaves. One sneeze can kill me. Church bells ring 7 futures. Blackbirds flex sunlight. The world is running out of places to stay cool, and the last feed you followed documented a heart surgery done in seconds, and you suppose that every second is worth pulling up on now that you have to wear masks everywhere, and so you abandon all your social platforms. You've been better at noticing wings darting through the overcast chime, getting to that hour in the day where you can smell a hint of drizzle and rage. So first thing you do is let the chords do their open mic, the clouds do their open mic, the time on the stove, and rock your work clothes even if there are no narratives to assess. It's true, this is the day you ordered off the menu, so this is the day that you have to eat. Might be a good idea if you start mourning for the losses early. Blunt rolling squirrels, crow rocks and evergreen, the cupola smiles. To live in this hour, recall a jukebox love song, those punk-ass church bells. Pandemic fashion, the maples need to speak up, Detroit red, sky blue. The next move has always been your style, and now you rewind and record. The bookstore is closed, the post office is closed, town hall is closed, the gym is closed, the library is closed, the ice cream shop is closed, Market Basket is closed, Family Dental is closed, but the sky is wide open. I check the forecast, look for a southern fried mood. Cool hawks want to dap. Last winter, you spent one Sunday afternoon studying the icicles as they slanted their stories from the rooftop, dripping out hours. Your instinct to be cloud needed a name that you once heard on the block, a whistle that can fly all the way home, nothing that can be cradled in a routine. Truth is, you've never seen a squirrel trip on a branch. Rain dots the grass, graze the skies, gangster love, overcast herons. Only those of us who have no sense of the sacred sleep through the chirps. What was it Hong Kingston said? In a time of destruction, you must create. As if a word was scratched out of my day, what meaning I tried to find was already swagging off the branches. The magnolia leaves flip into their final landing sequence. You can see the air between the questions. These days, faithful to your dream-keeping habits, you can be found praying for something to believe in with both hands. So about 4 years ago, I wrote this book called The Crazy Bunch, and it's a chronicle of a weekend in the lives of 5 young brothers from East Harlem, Fat Phil, Nestor, Petey, Dre, and Angel, and some dude named Popple. And in the beginning of the book, I'm going to read these poems straight through as if they were one piece, but you should know that in sequence, the poem starts off with an interview with the poetry cops. And the poetry cop stands for Consolidated Poetry Systems. And they're an interrogation sort of outfit. And they interview Papo about this particular weekend. So it's going to go the poetry cops, head crack, sweet 16, Josephine, sweet 16, that's my heart right there, and then the poetry cops. And so you're going to, hopefully you'll know which poem is which one when I read. It starts with the cops and Papo, and then it goes back and forth. And there's just a few poems that sort of, again, hold the book up on the scaffold. That's you and who else in this picture? That's me, Fat Phil, Nestor, Petey, Dre, and Angel. That was a Friday night. We were lamping in front of 2026 Lexington Avenue near Gaddafi's all-night spin counter. The bruja on the second floor was arranging a preparación for us. You could call it a freedom party. Preparations? You mean reparations? No, you know, like protection, spirit guides, caminos, higher powers, pigeon chasing. 2026, that's where you found Yellow Tops, Back to Life Summers, 9.5, First Kisses, Cop Chases, Catch and Kill for Real. 2026 was the beginning, the end, lingua franca, the hill and bottom. They called you Skinnicky, is that right? They still call me Skinnicky. Bagging up bricks and writing poems, Skinnicky? I wrote more bricks than poems, bagged up altogether less than a brick, but came out with at least half a book. But it's true you were writing poems. Bro, poems were falling off from the rooftops, flailing out the windows. Sometimes you pick up the corner payphone and a poem would be calling collect. Can we talk about Josephine? Beginning should come with it started, kid, no? Sometimes I feel like I dreamed Josephine, like for real. Well, we thought we could help you remember. Man, had to be at least 5 presidents and a breakfast since I seen Josephine. You were the first one, she said, to find Nestor. She didn't say that. Angel was the first one to find Nestor. But I was there when Dre decided he wanted to be an archangel. Every age requires a new lens, at least one pair of dress pants, and a dope whatever you need to witness. I'm saying we gave Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five their controlling symbol. How so? You know, broken glass everywhere. Street games before the rules changed. We lined up empty pints, fifths and quarts on a plank, walked 20 paces to a 5-gallon bucket brimmed with small chunks of Manhattan schist, and we would start slinging them shits, testing your angry range, our winning shot fantasies, developing a penchant for target and aim, beauty and blame. How long were you down with the Crazy Bunch? I'm still down with the Crazy Bunch. Let's start with the bruja on that Friday night. For some of us, telling a story or hearing one on the humble meant clearing a path, booking a cruise to self-knowledge, and for others, it meant getting some ass. No passive thinking. You couldn't be caught blinking when you told a story. Question is, who's left for the telling, and who tells about the leaving after they've been left? So who's left? What set us off is the same thing that set us apart, you could say. That weekend, our endings were paid in full. No matter where we went, the search for a loving eye was in effect. But there's some shit I promised to take to the grave. You'll know how that go. Zubang, Olang, Brick City, Fly Diddy, Drug War, Street Noir, War Fat, Bank That, Sneaker Box, Check Account, Get Fresh, Stay Fly, Night Pool, Old School, Stash House, Corner Store, We Cool, No More, Smoked Out, Players Ball, Okey doke, flat broke. Hangout, no doubt. Blackout, death count. Dwight gone, Tone gone. Petey gone, Chino gone. Body shot, chop shot. Black hole, myth soul. Break that, like this. Black cat, death kiss. Power move, move that. Crush groove, dope shit. Step back, get this. Shit, I lost my place, bro. What was it? 31. By the time we got to Josephine's Sweet 16, there were cheese doodle fingers everywhere. Fat Phil was already deep into his fake pachanga. Skinnicky, Angel, and Dre set up a snapshot by the cake tiers. Josephine's eyes were lit like strobes and glitter. Her silver dress hardly fit her, and because Angel was still tripping, he saw sequin in everything. Quinine in the ice cream, a fork and spoon standoff. He even saw his fate in a rack of plastic champagne glasses, bubbles big as balloons released all at once into the sky. Come on, bro, you can't mess with a nun who's wearing a tuxedo, he said. Cubes of cheddar and guayaba sat like Zen masters on the spheres of rich crackers. Josephine's brother kept adjusting his top hat because he had to give away his sister. Told us to stay by the round table just in case she tried to roll out and get reborn all of a sudden. Josephine graced her gold-plated throne. Her reinvention was imminent. Put on your cake face, Angel said. What we thought we heard Skinnicky say was, if Sekhmet created the desert with a breath and Shorty Bum Bum split the Atlantic to death. Party over here, party over there, and this right you get to take with you. The grown-ups spend most of their free time in the bathroom, and whenever the DJ played a gran combo, we all sighed and dipped to the staircase to make out, roll up, or add up. Little Joe, Josephine's uncle, tried to call us out on our stagnancy. Non-disciplined knuckleheads, he'd say, and as a way of offering evidence, he'd point to Fat Phil, and there was Fat Phil crashing into the VIP table, almost made Josephine's abuelita spill her rum until abuelita threw him a life-saving turn and spun Fat Phil back into his seat. There's that moment right when the flashbulb flashed on Josephine's smile, where your sense of lottery and random tries to reason with you. And yet you know there's just enough chance to survive more than one fresh hell and emerge without taking shorts. We used to say, that's my heart right there. As if to say, don't mess with her right there. As if don't even play, that's a part of me right there. In other words, okay, that's the start of me right there. As if come that day, that's the end of me right there. As if push come to shove, I would fend for her right there. As if come what may, I would lie for her right there. As if come love to pay, I would die for that right there. And after we officially gained entry into the brotherhood of bad motherfuckers, what could our mothers do but lose sleep? waken to prayer, prepare herbs and apples, cursive the names of our enemies on loose leaf and let their names dust in the sunlight. Now everything is clean, rezoned and paved, tenements abandoned like whack parties. What is left for us to do but summon bullies from their graves and liberate ourselves from influence? Gone are the old spots near the takeout, old flames where we used to make out, the spots where the light used to fade out, and the letters we wrote from burning buildings. Our shoulders were made of stone. Our evil was translucent. Turn us into mortals so we can cry without judgment. Surrender our cool and watch us morph into men. Let it be known that we chased killer dealers before the cans got kicked for good. We were made from repeating blocks. Holler if you hear us. There was never a once upon a time because all it takes is one person to get away with it, to get away and get over, to get some and get up. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. You are history, you said. If being free means burning a few things, then play that number for us straight. The corner was between us and the world, and sometimes you just needed to be okay with not telling. If anyone asks about your destiny, don't explain. Maybe this is the story we need to turn ourselves into music, bass and bully, a string pulling at both ends. They won't find us in books, you used to say. Everybody say, yeah, and you don't stop. We practice our lives in lobbies and lay away ganders and goofs, boosting lines from the radio, breaking dynamite styles. We were God bodies. We had God in our bodies. That's what Brother Lowe used to say. He used to say, a man can stand on the corner long enough to see a dream etched on a herb's forehead, to see desperation exit from a subway station, to see a tragic hero come back to reclaim his city. So we downloaded all of Brother Lowe's bars and gems, and no doubt when it was time to tell our story, out would come fire and spit. Who was it that said death is the mother of beauty? I think it was Brother Lowe. No, it was, what I can tell you is that shit and fucked up speak Spanish too. The image has a way of making you take a stand. So if beauty is death's daughter, then where is beauty's father? Most of what you told us, when you're poeting and the feel is real, then you might as well cut the deck and deal. I'm not fronting on you right now. I'm really not. I'm just saying I found my bid to sing early. And when I found it, Judgment Day, which once ran local, announced that it was going express. But your readers might say, ask Phil, man. Ask Baby Los, any of them brothers that are still around. When the bodies and blood begin to add up, we were there to do the math. Then it was your life as you saw it. Well, one could say it was as if my life saw me seeing my life and say, yo, Skaniki, when are you going to tell the story about the crew? You ever break night with a brick? What you mean, like a bad shot? For the record, it's messed up how they banned those drums in Mount Morris Park, and now I go uptown and I try to find friends in the faces of strangers. How to arrange yourself so that the ending is right. Okay, so we're going to ask you one more time. Okay, go ahead. Ask me. Thank you.
Can I have you come up for the Q&A? So we're going to be doing a quick Q&A from the podium. Thank you for the questions. Let's just wait till Quiara has a chance to get up here.
I've been hugging all night.
So this is a question for the two of you. When did you come to appreciate the power of all your languages?
Tonight. No, I mean that. It makes me think of, I'm an advocate for language always evolving, because no proper language feels complete or sufficient. And I think as writers, speaking for myself, it's just every day is a practice of doubt. And doubt is a practice of dedication, because if you have total faith, it's easy to proceed. But if you have doubt, I say while clutching my legs, you have to make a choice to proceed every time. And so when I'm in my writing practice, when I'm in my faith practice, there is doubt, there is questions. And that continues forward. I'm reminded of when I was a kid. I was in Puerto Rico, and Father Heath, who was a white missionary, was visiting the family. And I was curious, like, why this Midwestern priest was like hanging with us and how that came to be. So I was asking about it. And he said, I was like, what, how'd you end up here, Father Heath? And he said, he liked the Hispanic people more than his congregation back in the Midwest, because the Spanish people don't ask questions, they just take it on faith. And my blood boiled, and I felt so mad on behalf of my elders and my loved ones, because I was like, A, we're fucking smart, don't talk to us like we're stupid. And B, like, we have questions too, and we might not be telling you what our questions are, but trust me, they're in our hearts. So that's my roundabout answer.
I don't see it as much as a language as I see it as like tongues. And so, I have an uptown tongue. I got a native tongue. I got a sort of New Rican español que es un poquito raro, pero you know what I'm saying? Like, I still have that tongue, you know what I'm saying? But I was in California in the Fillmore district, and we were at Yoshi's, and right after Yoshi's, we went to a bar right next door, and Poncho Sanchez was playing that night. And so we sent Poncho Sanchez a drink. And so when we did the salute, I said, yo, that rendition of Bésame Mamá was dope that you did. Yo, thank you, right? And he heard me speak, and he said, you from East Harlem, right? You from uptown, right? and so that was a percussionist who heard, Baraka used to say how you sound. And so he heard my sound. And that's when I knew that it was a signature. So,
La linda lenguas.
Sí.
Could you both speak on the process of remembering how much of the dialogues or the conversations that you or your characters, right, have, or things you remember as a child, and how much of the dialogues do you remember as a child, and how much were from oral histories or inventions?
Yeah, John Murillo has a poem, I forget the title of it, it might be on negative capability. There's a line in it where he says, sometimes memory is like the only home that you get, right? And so setting up shop in that home it's a little fragmented, but sometimes it comes to you in a sort of dreamscape, you know? And you hear it, and when you hear it, it's just that one word or one sentence that sort of drives you into a whole rabbit hole of memory, I think. And in that moment, I think it's as like Jose Martí said, that every sort of imagination requires its own language. And so once I dip into that imagination, then the first question is, what's the language of this particular imagination, you know? And again, that's when all the tongues come into play, I think, you know, so.
I can't keep track of it, to be honest, and I'll be writing and I'll just Google shit I've written because I don't know if I wrote it or not. I'm like, I was thinking of, like when my first play in New York was called Elliot, A Soldier's Fugue, and it was about, thank you, I love that piece. And it was about Boricua men and women who have served in the United States military. And I based it off interviews with my family and oral histories with them. And my cousin, Elliot, came to see it. And so I'm sitting next to him, and I couldn't remember. It was a fictional play, but it's really honoring their spirits. It was homage, hopefully medicine. And my cousin, Elliot, I forgot what I had made up versus what, you know, it all starts to become its own truth in some ways. But Elliot helped me remember because he would squeeze my knee anytime it came, you know, it's like when the actor was like, yo, my little green Bible, because that was something Elliot had taken to Kuwait with him before he crossed the border north into Iraq. And then I remembered, you know, from him squeezing my knee, what was fact from his life. It was a reminder, and we cried together.
And then our last question, thanks to Felix. What writer workshops would you recommend for writers, poets, playwrights of the Afro-Latinx diaspora? And I'm going to add in the Puerto Rican diaspora, too.
I would definitely start with the, I forget it's writing Seeds for the Center of Black Literature, Dr. Brenda Green. It's a retreat, and it takes place in Brooklyn at Medgar Evers College. So I would start there, then I would go on to Vona. Mm-hmm. And then from Vona, I would maybe go to, I think really that question, what it really sort of forces you to do is say that you really need to create your own workshops.
Yeah.
You know? And so one of the things that I think is key in cultivating, you know, poetry and storytelling and playwriting and whatnot is to make sure that those places, those venues where you can do that, and hopefully you can do it for free, that you don't have to pay, that you can sit in on these workshops, and then that's how movements are sort of created, you know? So I would say, let's build our own workshops, you know? Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of poets, you know, here tonight. There's the Nuyorican is here, I know. And I think, I'm guessing for most of us, part of the work we had to do, it certainly wasn't assigned.
Yeah.
So we had to assign it to ourselves. Yeah. But how do we know how to assign it to ourselves? You just take it one book at a time, and then you find out, well, what books influence that person? You really have to kind of be your own detective, because in my experience, and maybe it's different now, I'm 45, so the syllabuses have changed, but in my experience, it wasn't on my syllabus. I had to make my life my syllabus and take that work on myself, and it was joyous work because I got to choose. You know, that's how I found my way to a lot of the poets and writers here tonight. You know, just to ask everyone who you know, who should I be reading, who do you love?
Well, on that note, go forth with faith, craft, and composure. Bendición. And join us for the book signing around the hall.